This is It's Not in the Syllabus podcast, the how-tos of a student beyond classroom walls. This is the podcast where you, yes you, get to learn what they don't teach you at school and ace that test called life, or at least get a passing grade and get by. It's Not in the Syllabus is a podcast brought to you by the Adventist International Institute of Advanced Studies, together with the Student Association, where we feature stories by the students and for the students. Join us as we discover life lessons you'll surely need.
Welcome to another episode of It's Not in the Syllabus, the how-tos of students beyond class wall. In this month, we are talking about meaningful life as a graduate student. And today, we are going to talk about burnout among graduate students and coping mechanism. A person who is going to help us understand this topic is Dr. Ernie Medina. How are you, Doc?
Hello, good, thank you.
Good. So, I'm going to introduce him. I'm going to read his bio because I have to. Because you don't know the magnitude of this CV.
No.
So I will do my best to read his bio for you to know who is Dr. Ernie Medina. Am I pronouncing the name correct?
Yes, you are.
Ernie Medina,
yep.
Junior, correct?
Yep.
So
Junior.
let me read. That's how the bio says. He's graduated from Andrews University and went on to complete his master's in public health education, and his doctoral in public health, preventive care from Loma Linda University, School of Public Health in 1993.
Correct.
Doc, this is when I was getting bored.
Oh man! So I'm I'm graduating my doctorate, and you were being born.
Yes. So
Thanks.
for the next 21 years, he honed his wellness coaching skills, working in health education department at Behavior Medical Group in Redlands. This is California.
California. Correct.
There, he focused on weight loss, diabetics, smoking cessation, and stress management and employee wellness. He led small groups, classes, and saw patients individually for wellness coaching sessions. So actually, you were coaching.
I was doing health coaching as well as working with different types of we call them non-communicable diseases.
Okay.
So like weight loss,
Okay.
stress management, type 2 diabetes,
Okay.
quit smoking.
All right.
So I was working with those kinds of patients.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So you also deal with diabetics, right? Reverse diabetics? In which stage? When it's later stage or just...
Well, mainly they were type 2 diabetic,
Oh,
type 2
2.
diabetes. So
Okay.
yeah, not type 1 but type 2.
Okay.
And if they were either on oral medication or not on oral medication, those were the best. Those are the types of people I usually saw.
I see.
Yeah, because they still have a chance to be reversed.
Reverse. Oh, very good. So let us dive into our conversation. I hope I did the CV
Sure.
just.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Good. So it's actually...
Well, actually, you did the beaver part. So I was 21 years at the medical group.
Okay.
Right after I graduated from Loma Linda. But then in 2014, I went back to Loma Linda
To teach.
to teach.
Oh,
So
correct.
I've been now on the faculty now since 2014.
Wow.
So I've been now there 10 years now on the faculty. But I still do some of the clinical things. That was one of my agreements that I negotiated. I said, hey, I'll come back to academia,
Yeah.
but I don't want to forget
Yes.
all the clinical. So I still see smokers, and I do weight loss, and I do diabetics on campus,
Okay.
mostly employees, and then I do, of course, all the academic stuff.
I see.
Yeah.
So what are you actually doing in the Philippines, if I may ask? Someone may want to know.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Well, so one of the classes I
Philippines
teach.
and AIIAS particularly.
Correct. Yes. So one of the classes that I teach at Loma Linda
Yep.
is health coaching.
Wow.
We actually give a certification for health coaching.
Okay.
So in my class last year
Okay.
was a physician from this area. His name is Dr. Jim DeCastro.
Okay.
And also another lady that's a staff person here.
Okay.
Her name is Grace.
Oh, Dr.
She,
Grace.
you know Grace?
Yes, Dr. Grace.
Yes, so both of them were in my class, my classes last year, and so I got to know them. And this is all being taught on Zoom live.
All right.
So I got to know Dr. Jim, and he was the one that invited me to come here
All right.
to do a health coaching seminar to his colleagues, other healthcare people, There's an association called the Philippine College of Lifestyle Medicine,
Okay.
PCLM, and so we had, just last Sunday, we had close to 100 people
Okay.
that were here, 100 healthcare professionals here in the auditorium here at AIIAS,
Wow.
doing it. It was like a crash course health coaching
I see.
seminar.
Wow,
So
wow,
that's what brought me here to AIIAS.
Wow, right. Well, you are welcome. We are glad to have you here. So let us dive into our conversations. When you look at the graduate school, graduate life, graduate life, has demands, financial, academic as well. So what are the responsibilities of the institution when it comes to bear those issues in terms of stress to student?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was thinking about that as far as what is the responsibility of the institution, and if you look at a lot of different mission statements of universities and things, somewhere usually in there is something about student balance, student work-life balance.
Yeah.
And so the institution tries to uphold certain standards, but at the same time not make it so difficult and onerous that students are overwhelmed. Because at the graduate level, I was a graduate student. People are usually working full time a lot of times, but they could be working and they have a family and they're going to school.
Yes.
So now I will admit, when I was a graduate student, I was one of the few who I came straight from my BS, my college from Andrews.
Yes.
So I was not married at the time, came right in, and so, but most of my classmates in my master's and my doctoral program, they were all working professionals. They had worked for maybe 10, 15, 20 years and were coming back to school to get their graduate degree. And so almost all my classmates were married and had families. I was like the exception.
Okay.
And so, but I saw what they were doing and what they went through, and then eventually I did get married. I did not have any kids while I was in grad school, but I could see the challenges that they have. And now as a teacher, as a professor, I have students from all over the world who are working full time and they're taking classes online, and so I hear all the different things. I just had one student who they have work deadlines or emergencies.
Correct.
Or family emergencies. I have one student right now in one of my classes. Her dad suddenly just passed away.
Wow.
And we're right at the end of the quarter, so she has to go back home and take care of things, and so she can't finish this quarter, and we have to do an incomplete, and she'll finish next, in the next month or so.
Yeah.
So I mean that's life. So I know graduate level students, they usually have a lot more balls in the air that they're juggling.
Yeah. So it has to be. This balance needs to be placed in the mission statement of the institution.
Yes.
So that students then become priority in terms of burning out or any stress. So can you help us understand how do society expectation and pursuit of prestige contribute to the pressure graduate students feel? Is there a culture shift needed to be redefined, success beyond academic achievement and publications?
Yeah. Yes, in the academic world, that's a good question. And when I teach stress management, I always go back to my clinical side and my stress management, and I always remember the words of Eleanor Roosevelt. I don't know, Eleanor Roosevelt? She was the wife of one of our presidents.
Yes.
She said this phrase. She said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent."
Consent, okay.
Okay? So no one can make me feel inferior without my consent.
Yes.
But you can change that word inferior, and you can say no one can make you feel stressed without my consent.
Okay.
So if you really think about that and you really, look at that, when you're saying, okay, society's expectations or your department chair or whatever, and they're saying you should get this many publications or you should go through tenure or da-da-da, that may, unless it's written in stone that you have to reach a certain thing by a certain year, that's really up, on you. You're the one putting that kind of pressure on yourself. Right. And, some people buy into that and then they put a lot of stress on themselves, and they're saying they're workaholics and they work and trying to get the publications and the research and the grants and all that. And then others look and say, look, you know what? This is is this really all I'm here for, right? To make professor or to have all these publications, or am I here to make a difference with my students?
Okay.
Or am I here to make a difference in my, future work,
Yes.
whatever that may be. And so it really is up to the person. And so there may be those expectations, but again, they're just expectations. It's up to you and me to decide, am I going to buy into those expectations?
I like that.
And I can't blame somebody if they have those expectations, that if I buy into it, then it's not their fault. It's my fault because I bought into it.
Yeah. Some of those expectations, Doc, are also requirements at times in terms of publication. For instance, I know at AIIAS, I think now they've implemented a PhD must publish before graduating.
Must publish.
Must publish an article. I don't know if it's being implemented.
Are you sure it's publish or submit for publication?
Must publish.
So must
I'm not so
publish.
sure, but I heard that. So some of those expectations are requirements. So it becomes then a bit of frustrating and so forth. So
but again, then that's okay. So let's say that is the case. Once you submit something and you do their they usually send it back and they have reviews and all that. So once you do that and you do your best, it really is out of your control.
Correct.
Right? And so why should I stress out about something that is not in my control? Now, it's you just got to trust God, right? And at that point, it's like, okay, there must be a plan, there must be a reason why if it's not published this time or whatever.
Yeah.
But again, if it's out of my control, I'm not going to worry about it.
So if it's not your control, you don't need to worry about
because you can't do anything about it. I mean, I've done my best, made the edits, conferred with my chair, my committee or whatever, submitted it, resubmitted it, whatever, but that's all you can do, right?
So, Doc, what could be some of the long-term consequences of burnout, both to students, both to graduates, and maybe professional life?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I was just talking the other day for chapel about the mind-body, right? So when somebody is burned out, they're pretty much, if you look at the definition of burnout, I mean, their body is just basically, they're on empty. They can't cope anymore. They're not able to function effectively anymore, and so you're running on empty. And so that obviously that's going to impact everything, right?
Yes.
Your personal life, your professional life, your academic life, your social life, and so it can have pretty devastating, far-reaching effects in all areas of your life.
All right. So, can you mention few of the symptoms of burnout?
Yeah. So one would be like lack of motivation.
I think I have that.
Oh, you have that? I mean, when they wake up in the morning and they're like, I just don't want to do anything. Feeling very tired. Okay. They don't have any energy. They're what we call listless. Like they just are like blah. They just have no enthusiasm, no spark for life. They could be having some physical symptoms. They might lack appetite. They might have trouble sleeping. They might have different kinds of stress. Tight muscles and stress headaches, that kind of thing. They might have indigestion or GI issues. Depression. They could feel depressed, and all that. So they're probably, I would say, they're like mental and physical manifestations that you might see in somebody.
I think I've seen it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think all of us might have had some of those in some way, shape, or form. But we're talking to the point of almost debilitating. It's not somebody say, I don't feel like getting up and going, but I'm going to do it, and I go, and you do it, right? I mean, somebody's like, they can't even just get out of bed, and they're just like, I
won't do anything today.
They just lay on the couch, they just watch TV, or they just sit there and just eat comfort food. I mean, they're just,
I see. So if you at home, if you have those symptoms, I think what could be recommendation? They need to check a psychologist, a school psychologist, a chaplain. For them to be helped.
Yes, at that point, I would definitely encourage them to go seek some help. Yeah, if there's a psychologist, a counselor. Usually there's a school's counselor.
They do. We have it.
Yeah, you have that. Good. Yeah. So I would definitely go and seek help.
I see. So how can we move beyond individualistic coping strategies and create a culture of support within graduate programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would, the thing for me is that no one is an island. No one is. We weren't designed to be by ourselves.
Correct.
So I would say from the school's perspective, from a program's perspective, to try to create as many opportunities for students to do things together, to create relationships, group things, right? I mean, it could be as simple as having a group luncheon, potluck.
Correct.
Lunch, social kind of outings.
Yes.
I'm big into pickleball,
Yes.
so I'm always inviting people to play pickleball, and so now I see some of my students and fellow teachers and professors on the pickleball courts.
Okay.
And when you see people outside of their natural environment, like in the school setting, in an office or in a classroom, I believe it really strengthens relationships between people.
All right.
And that way then when, let's say if we were doing that, I see you in the classroom as well as on the pickleball courts, as well as, outside and we're eating or something, or we go out to eat as a group.
Yeah.
Then if something were down or something were happening to you, I would be able to pick that up.
Correct.
And say, hey, you don't seem yourself today. What's going on? See, and that if you can catch it early, and sort of try to intervene early on, that's much better than burning. And if you're by yourself in the library, in the stacks by yourself, and you're just sort of spiraling down, and it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Then and nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody hears, and so I think creating community and creating relationships is probably one of the best things that you can do.
Yeah, creating community support. I think we had an episode of community support, and which is good. But then, Doc, remember as a graduate student, you expect to write a thesis or a dissertation for some universities. But particularly at AIIAS, reach a point where students should produce a publishable document, which is an academic document, a dissertation or a thesis.
Right.
And that stage, it's often a lonely stage, in a sense that you are moved away from classroom. Now just you and your committee. And if your committee are not those who will check on you on your progress, you're actually alone. So how can then we as a school ensure that when a student is writing or is writing his thesis or his master's or his dissertation, and then we provide the support that student will not feel that is alone. You mentioned that no man is an island on his own. So how do we do that?
Yeah, I remember that writing phase myself because I was writing for 6 months.
Okay.
And I wasn't in class. I was writing this was before COVID, obviously. So I wasn't in class. I was just writing, and then I was doing my internship. I had to do hours, in the clinic where I ended up working, but I wasn't seeing a lot of But the difference is that I wasn't writing 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and just being by myself. I was deliberately taking time to go out and socialize, and most of my socializing, I would try to, I don't like this phrase, but kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
I was trying to do that, so I would get my exercise, which is a great intervention or preventative measure against burnout, as well as social. So back then, when I was in graduate school, the sport I was really into was ultimate frisbee. I don't know if you know what that is. Think of it like soccer, but with a frisbee.
Okay.
So you know what a frisbee is, right?
Yeah.
So it's like soccer, but instead of kicking the ball, we're throwing the frisbee to each other.
Yeah.
So lots of running around. There's diving, catching, throwing. It's all this kind of thing.
I see.
But I would play that,
Yep.
and so that's where I got my community and my re-energizing, and then I could go back and then write a little bit more. So I would say try to encourage those who are in that phase of their dissertation writing. They write straight 8 hours. I think about it as ROI.
Okay.
You could write for 8 hours and get X pages done.
Yes.
Or you could write for like 3 hours here and then exercise for 2 and then write for 3 more.
Yeah.
And you would probably get more done in that 3 hour blocks than if you did 6 or 8 hours straight without the break. So because the body needs that break, it needs to be, the blood flow needs to be back to the brain.
I see.
You need to, and it break that stress and the tension. So so that was always my philosophy when I was in grad school was, I had classmates who just studied. If they weren't in class, they were studying all day. And I was taking time to take care of self-care, we call it, right?
Yeah.
taking time to exercise and de-stress.
Yeah.
And I felt like I did better than those who just were studying straight.
I see. Very good. We are going for a break.
Okay.
We are going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. Stay right back and we will come to you.
Marhaba and Mabuhay from AIIAS in the Philippines. My name is Anoop Dominic and I'm a student here at AIIAS for the PhD program in business.
Hi, my name is Natasha Nangoy Sinaga and I am studying for the degree of PhD in business.
I want to give you 3 reasons why my family and I chose the PhD program and moved here and made AIIAS our home. Well, the 3 reasons are: number 1, the rich diversity on campus. You look around and you see people from everywhere.
Here at AIIAS, the business department aims to prepare leaders who are professionally competent, socially responsible, and ethically upright to serve in organizations in a global setting. My professors here at AIIAS are intellectual, inclusive, and dedicated to their students' professional and academic growth.
Number 2, we have an awesome campus. It's a beautiful campus, beautifully landscaped, and a great place to sit, think, study, and it's been a pleasant experience for me so far.
My experience as a student is that we are given invigorating tasks to accomplish. We learn both formally and informally through different avenues, by taking courses on campus and online, through research and business consultancy, by involvement in business social clubs and community service, and through our interactions with people from various representations.
Number 3, we have a competitive program, a program for professionals like me, coming from the professional world, going to the professional world. It's a great program that suits all.
At AIIAS Business Department, we are also encouraged to be autonomous and independent, but at the same time, a nurturing environment is provided for us to foster teamwork and collaboration. Hence our motto, we make it happen.
Come, we welcome you. Come and experience AIIAS and the PhD program in business.
Come to AIIAS and be part of the business department.
Alright, welcome back to another episode of It's Not in the Syllabus. So we are talking about burnout among graduate students in its coping mechanism. With me is Dr. Ernie Medina, Jr.
Yes.
Alright, so Doc, before we went to a break, you said that a student must socialize, might take time to do other activities as they are in their writing stage. I agree with you. So what are the limitations of traditional coping mechanisms such as mindfulness and stress management, which is actually your area, techniques in addressing the systematic pressure that contributes to burnout? Are there alternatives approach that address the root causes of burnout rather than simply managing symptoms?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I tend to look at a lot of those stress management kinds of techniques, deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, stretching. Those are almost, like you said, treating the symptoms.
Yes.
So, if we can prevent those symptoms from happening in the first place, that would be good. Now, I'm not saying those are bad, and I think those are still all good to do, but that's why I come back to, exercise, for example, because when you exercise, guess what you're doing while you're exercising? You're doing deep breathing.
Okay.
What are you doing to your muscles? You're doing contraction, relaxation. That's progressive muscle relaxation.
All right.
So you're doing a lot of the stress management techniques that we talk about. When you talk about mindfulness, mindfulness is, either you can talk about it as meditation, is another word that a lot of people use. And so you could be meditating on something, being peaceful, that. So, so a lot of people, like when they go on their walks, they like to then, that's their way of being mindful. When they're out for a walk, they're just thinking, they're observing nature. For me, when I try doing mindfulness stuff, my mind tends to wander.
Okay.
So for me to sort of disengage my brain and sort of give it a break, when I play a sport, so let's say, for example, I'm playing pickleball right now. When I play a sport, it gives me a chance to sort of put all of my all of my digital life, my phone, my computer, my laptop, all my appointments and everything on hold. And guess what I'm doing? I'm focusing on one thing.
Yes.
That ball going over the net, my opponents over there, my court. I mean, I'm focusing on the game, and for me, that's mindfulness. I'm like mindful of, they talk about mindful eating.
Yes.
Focusing on what you're eating, enjoying the taste and the smell and all that, versus eating and reading and watching something and eating, you're not even paying attention, right? So for me, sports is the way I am mindful, because I can really just focus on the one thing, and it gives my mind a break.
Okay, so sport could be one of those techniques as well. Sometimes students, they usually don't like talk about their burnout. So what could be some strategies to be implemented to encourage students to talk about their burnout issues?
Yeah, I think mental health in general has stigma.
Yes.
There's a lot of stigma around it. I think COVID, the pandemic, helped to break some of that stigma, because it really, put everybody through the ringer.
Yeah.
So I think one way to encourage that is for people to share. And whether it's in support groups or in forums like this, or so, because I think the more people, if they hear you had a bout with burnout, or I had a bout with burnout, and here's what I did, the more people hear about that, and they hear us sharing, or the leaders sharing, or faculty sharing, then they'll be like, oh, well, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I'm abnormal or weird or something. So I think just sharing and being open, and then creating a safe environment that, when you say, hey, we're going to have a support group and talk about, if you're struggling, come in, you can come and support each other.
Yes.
Then I think that's the way you can break down the stigma.
And burnout is not just for graduate students.
Right. Oh.
Yeah, it's in general. They are in workplace.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And sometimes even faculties or staff.
Oh, yeah.
They do feel burnout. So
Sure.
what are the ethical implications of universities prioritizing research output and prestige over well-being of their graduate students? I know this is a tricky question. And how can institutions shift their focus to create a more supportive and sustainable environment for graduate education?
Well, that's yes. Being a faculty person myself, I always strive to sit, with my students to let them know that, hey, I walked in your shoes. I was a graduate student myself.
I was there once.
I know what it's like.
Yeah.
And so I try to be as empathetic as possible.
Correct.
So when, I know we all have, like in our syllabus, we have rules or policies for turning in late work.
Late work.
I have that as well. It's you have to have it. But I can, it says may, may incur blah, blah, blah. And so I use that may because it's like, it's there for policy, but I rarely enforce it, or I give people a lot of grace, students a lot of grace.
Wow.
So I think as an ethical, I think as a lone faculty person, I do what I can for my students.
Okay.
From administration, that's a different story.
Correct.
But I would hope that from the top down, we reflect healthy balance. I mean,
Correct.
Jesus. If you look at Jesus, he only had 3 years here to do his mission, right? 3 years. And he could have been a workaholic.
Yeah.
But he took time to go out in the wilderness, right?
Rest, to
pray, to fast, to do whatever. He didn't work 24/7. So, I hope that we all follow his example, no matter how important our work is. And who would say our work is more important than Jesus' work was, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was the whole great controversy.
Correct.
Right there.
Yes.
So he took care of himself, and I think we need to do the same. And the other thing I always think about too is, I mean, I can work as hard as I want and do all this, but at the end of the day, I'm not expendable. I mean, I am expendable, because it's like if I'm gone and whatever, somebody's gonna, I'm replaceable.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause I think sometimes we think, oh, I'm so important to the institution, or I'm so important to my department, and my professor's depending on me, and you know what? Life goes on.
Yeah,
I mean, none of us are irreplaceable. So.
And I always use the example of Moses. Moses, when God said, Moses, you're not going to the promised land, the mission did not stop.
Right.
It continued.
Yeah.
In fact, even better than, if I may say. So I like the way you said administrators should also put a focus on that. As a teacher, you are doing your part, but then also has the other side of administrator, because those are the policy makers. But within your own field, in your class, you know what to do, and you provide grace for students as well. So, but that does not compromise
Right.
the overall values of the
Right.
of the institution.
Right.
It's just between the student and the professor.
Right.
I like that.
They're still doing the work.
Yes.
You know, but if they had a death in the family or they were sick.
Which one of your students has?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Or, you know, somebody gets COVID right
Yes.
again and then they're out. So, you know, I'm like, say, oh, well, sorry, this is, you knew this. It's like, really? Life happens. And so that's me. I know other professors might not be so graceful or gracious.
Yeah.
So,
Correct. I like that. So, what are the challenges and opportunities in providing accessible and effective mental health services for graduate students?
see, you know, what are the
Challenges.
okay.
And opportunities.
Well, challenges would be, of course, resources. You said you had a counselor here, so
Yes, we
that's
do
good.
have, yeah.
So typically, those would be the challenges of resources, staffing, if there are, those kinds of things. But at the same time, that creates opportunity. And so, if there are things that are out there already that are already done, there's no need to reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of finding what resources that are out there, or maybe even grants or funding or programs out there that can help with this with burnout. You know, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things online.
Yes,
you know,
correct.
courses online just for burnout, even just to share.
Yeah. As a faculty, you are also a mentor. You mentor students. So, what are the role? What is the role? What does mentorship play in preventing burnout among graduate students?
Well, so yeah, that's a great question, because as a mentor, you know, I can share what I went through the School of Hard Knocks.
Correct.
And then that saves you, hopefully, from having to go through it, or maybe go through it to the degree that I went through it. So I think mentorship is really good, and I encourage graduate students to find a mentor. Hopefully, maybe it's their advisor. If not their advisor, you know, the chair of their committee, whatever, or their department. Yeah. So, but you know, I would mentor students, especially when they were doing their internship time, and so that's why, and that's part of the reason I came back to Loma Linda, because I said, look, I've been out there for 21 years, working in the trenches, working with people, dealing with these kinds of issues. I mean, I saw so many patients who were burned out. I had this one patient who was chief of the police for the highway patrol, CHP, we call it, CHIP. And he said he was having all these, you know, high blood pressure, insomnia, but he was physically, he looked great. I mean, he looked in shape, he exercised, he did all, but literally his job was killing him. You know, I mean, he was doing everything he could, but yet his job was killing him. And so he was coming to my stress class, and then went through that, and we talked about different things. Well, he ended up, you know, making that hard decision, saying, you know what, it's either my job or my life. So he retired from that position and is now teaching at a college, you know, law enforcement, you know, the future policeman. And see, he can be a great mentor, because he can say, look, this is what happened to me, and I got to a point where I had to make a tough call. So either, you know, and you're a chief of police, and that, you know, everything comes to you. So that's what a mentor can do. They can share their experiences and support and, you know, guidance, and here's what I went through, and here's how I dealt with it, and, you know, and then just encourage. So that's what I try to do now. I wanted to come back and share it with the next generation of doctoral preventive care students, lifestyle medicine students, and so that's what I work with mostly are those students who are in the field that I just came from for 20 some years.
Wow.
So yeah,
very good. We can't get enough of this conversation. It's been nice, but I want to give an opportunity now for you to tell us more about your coaching wellness.
Oh, yeah.
So what is it that you do, and how will you coach someone with stress, with burnout, or someone who is into smoking and stuff like that? Maybe if you can just lead us to that.
Sure, So here's the thing. Here in the Philippines, they have the same diseases that we have in the States.
Okay.
All right, heart disease, diabetes, stroke, hypertension, and the death rates from these types of diseases is like 70% here in the Philippines.
Wow.
It's like 80% in the U.S.
Wow.
So very, very high for both countries.
Yeah.
So medicine in general, when they try to deal with these diseases, they deal with them with one of two ways: either medication, drugs, or surgery. Well, those diseases typically are connected to their root causes are connected to lifestyle, what you eat, exercise, drink, and smoke. Those are probably the 4 biggies, and then there's others. Sleep, and other things, social connectedness, loneliness, whatever. But those are the 4 things. And so there's no medicine or surgery that can help you, eat better.
Yes.
Or exercise more, right? So that's where health coaching comes in.
Okay.
So health coaching is designed to try to help the patient or the client make those long-term lifestyle changes. And my job is not to just convince you or to try to give you all the information or tell you, well, I'm the doctor, you should do this, because that does not foster what we call intrinsic motivation, i.e., you want to do it because it's coming from in you versus me telling you what to do.
Okay.
So as a health coach, instead of me giving you all the answers right up front and the solutions of what to do, my job is like to sort of guide you and ask you questions, help you come up with your own solutions.
It's like a psychologist type of thing.
It basically is. It's based on motivational interviewing.
Okay.
So motivational interviewing is a different style of approach of communication.
I see.
Open-ended questions, active listening, really trying to increase your self-efficacy, your ability, your confidence to do something. And again, trying to instill intrinsic motivation. Because if I can do that, then once we're done, you don't need me anymore because you're now doing it for yourself.
Okay.
So that's the goal of that's really in a nutshell what health coaching is, because these lives, helping somebody eat better or exercise more or quit smoking. I can't just give you a brochure and say, here, read this.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, right, I'm going to be this. And, it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as a health educator, I'm good at educating. Or as a doctor of preventive care, I can be an expert and give you an exercise prescription.
Correct.
We call it that even. But that doesn't really foster intrinsic motivation.
Okay.
So that's why I use health coaching strategies. In fact, I didn't learn that a lot in my own program. I sort of learned it through the School of Hard Knocks over those 20 years.
Okay.
Then when I came back to Loma Linda, I got certified and learned, this is what it was all about. And so now we teach it to all of our students.
I see.
And you'll be starting a program here in the next year, a health coaching program here in public health.
Wonderful.
Because it's critical in primary medicine. The docs we had here last Sunday, they were like, oh, wow, this just blew my mind. And where can we learn more, and how can we get into health coaching more? I said, well, talk to Dr. Edward Nathan, and he's the charge of the program here.
Good. And someone is watching probably at home, will be watching this, and it will say, I want to get in contact with you. How does the person get in contact with you?
Sure.
Can you share your contact?
Yeah, well, the easiest way is my email address, Medina, EMEDINA, at LLU, Loma Linda University.
Can we put it on the...
Sure.
Okay,
yeah.
we're going to put that.
Medina at LLU.edu.
Okay.
That's it. Just email me.
And then just an email, you can explain your issues or anything that not anything, but it's more on coaching. So any issues of any burnout, stress, eating disorder, you can now have our Dr. Medina.
Sure, I'd be happy. I do a lot of coaching online.
Online as well.
Now on Zoom.
Yeah.
Since the pandemic, before I did it all in person.
Yes.
But since the pandemic, we had to pivot and shift, and now it's just easier.
Correct.
I can coach somebody across the other side of the world.
Correct.
And so, if anybody has questions or needs some help or something, just email me and we can go from there.
All right. And then one thing that I know about Dr. Medina is very communicable. He communicates. You send in an email today. Definitely, if he's not busy, that is.
Right. If I'm not teaching or playing pickleball or sleeping, then I'll get back to you.
Yeah, he'll get back to you. Doctor, thank you so much for your time.
Sure, appreciate it.
Have you enjoyed our conversation?
Oh yeah, it was fun.
We learned.
I'm happy to share.
Good, thank you. And I believe that our guests, also our audience, will be able to enjoy our conversation. Friends, we are done from today. We talked about burnout among graduate students and coping mechanism. Make sure you like and subscribe our YouTube channel and leave your comment of what else you want us to discuss. Until then, God bless you.
God bless.
Thank you so much.